Do you have a legal marijuana company that you'd like to market and advertise at November's big conference in Las Vegas? We're planning our Las Vegas ventures right now and we'll be recording some very awesome special episodes that we're looking for sponsors for. If you want to tap into our very large and growing audience of 25,000 plus listeners, just drop me an email to shay@mjtodaymedia.com with my name spelled SHEA. That's shay@mjtodaymedia.com. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at McCabe Law, LLC of Portland, Maine. McCabe Law provides cannabis legal services to the hemp and medical and adult use marijuana industries, both in Maine and nationally. When you need help with licensing, business formations, real estate transactions, investments, compliance, risk management, strategic decision-making, or local and state government relations, McCabe Law has the expertise to step in and get things done. You can learn more about McCabe Law and all the services they provide over at McCabeLawLLC.com, which is spelled MCCABE LawLLC.com. Thanks to our friends over at McCabe Law for the support. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Thursday, August 23rd, 2018, and you're tuned in to episode 556 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We lead off today with some great news out of California, where yesterday state senators voted to pass a bill that would direct the state's Department of Justice to review criminal felony cases involving cannabis that could benefit from a reduction in sentence or from being thrown out altogether. Under 2016's Proposition 64, an avenue already exists for people with marijuana felony crimes on their records that wouldn't be considered criminal matters today to petition the state for an expungement or a reduction in sentence, but the onus is put upon the individual to put that process in motion. A lot of people aren't aware that they're eligible for the program or lack the resources or capabilities to do so. If signed into law, the bill passed by the California Senate yesterday would have the state's Department of Justice do the footwork in figuring out which historic cases could be reduced or tossed out, and then pass those cases on to local district attorneys' offices to either agree with or to file objections over. We have news out of Oklahoma that a judge ruled on Tuesday in favor of the state's Board of Health and the latest round of rules and regulations it's proposing to use for its nascent medical marijuana program. That's good news because the latest version of those rules allow for the sale of smokable medical cannabis and remove an earlier requirement that dispensaries have on-staff pharmacists around 40 hours a week. The storyline's been running for a while now and has gotten convoluted at times, with the Oklahoma Attorney General's office and the governor's office both agreeing at one point that the rules banning the sale of smokable cannabis overstepped the bounds of voter intent. On Tuesday, Cleveland County District Judge Michael Tupper ruled against a legal petition filed seeking the return of those more restrictive rules, finding that the Oklahoma Department of Health was perfectly within the bounds of its authority when it changed things up. Our final top story as we tilt down towards the weekend is an update to an earlier storyline first picked up by Tom Angel over at Marijuana Moment, who also grabbed this one as the U.S. Drug Enforcement Administration is proposing to boost the amount of medical marijuana grown for research purposes this year in addition to next year, as Tom had first reported last week. In a filing set to be published today in the Federal Register, the DEA is calling for the amount of research cannabis to be grown this year to be boosted to a little over 2,500 pounds, up from the 978 pounds the agency wanted late last year. This is a great story to open up for the full read, as Tom has all the right background, context, and other details to round out your understanding. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz it on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, McCabe Law, LLC of Portland, Maine, which provides a wide variety of legal services to the legal cannabis industry. I should say here that I'm a client of McCabe Law myself, having used them to incorporate MJ Today Media LLC, so I feel pretty good about recommending them here on the show. Besides business incorporation, McCabe Law can assist in all sorts of other legal things like getting your business licenses, securing your real estate, landing investment dollars, and staying compliant with all necessary laws, which is pretty important in our industry. McCabe Law specializes in Maine and Massachusetts, but has a national scope and perspective that informs their work in a really smart and forward-thinking way. If you're involved in the legal marijuana industry up around our corner of the country and need some help with any legal matter, make sure to look at working with the pros at McCabe Law of Portland, Maine, which you can learn more about over at McCabeLawLLC.com, which is spelled MCCABE LawLLC.com. All right, time for the Blitz. A new Quinnipiac poll released yesterday out of New Jersey shows that 62% of polled residents are in favor of legalized adult use cannabis, but half don't want to see dispensaries open up in their neighborhood. Those numbers are pretty heavily skewed by political affiliation, though, as just 28% of Republicans are okay with sharing their neighborhood with legal marijuana dispensaries, while 66% of Democrats would be perfectly fine with the same thing. On that question of adult use legalization, just 41% of New Jersey Republicans are in favor versus 78% of Democrats. Leaping out to Wisconsin, we have another poll finding a majority of respondents favoring adult use cannabis. This time we have a poll out of Marquette Law that has 61% of Badger State residents in support of legal adult use cannabis, with just 36% opposed. Those numbers also break down as you'd expect politically once you peek into political affiliation, with 76% of Democrats favoring legalization, with 62% of Republicans opposed. Open up Marijuana Moments story on this one for more detail and to click through to the original poll itself. Bart Shainman over at Marijuana Business Daily takes a good longer-form look at a new set of Colorado regulations for pesticide testing in legal cannabis that is reportedly adding a not insignificant extra cost to cultivators during a time when the wholesale price of marijuana is steadily dropping by the month. This one is a great one for anyone to open up and read, even if you're not involved in the Mile High State. The Boston Globe's Dan Adams has an interesting and instructive story up about a conflict within Massachusetts' legal marijuana industry over the right way to test cannabis for contamination. The story is a pretty good reminder of just how new this whole legal cannabis thing still is, as the rules and methods being used in cultivation and processing and especially testing are being developed right now. Yet another one you should add to your list to read today. Keeping our feet planted in Massachusetts for another headline, we have the state's Cannabis Control Commission issuing guidance yesterday for towns and cities implementing adult use marijuana that stresses the need for them to consider diversity as they hand out official sanction to operate. We've been covering this storyline for as long as it's existed, with the Cannabis Control Commission taking the national lead in setting up a legalization program that seeks to provide assistance in getting involved in the industry to people that have been historically most negatively impacted by the war on cannabis. Yesterday, the commission issued guidance to Massachusetts towns and cities that urge them to fast-track applicants within the Economic Empowerment Program, to lower the fees they charge to cannabis businesses for operating within their boundaries, and to use some of the revenue generated from legal cannabis taxes for programs like workplace training and mentoring. Wrapping up today's headlines are two stories out of Oregon. Our first piece looks at the wholesale price for outdoor Oregon cannabis, which fell to a historic low of $398 per pound, according to the folks over at Cannabis Benchmarks, which monitors that sort of thing. That's about $1 per gram, give or take a dime. Good news for consumers, not so much for cultivators. Our final story today is some good news, with a federal judge in Oregon tossing out a racketeering claim brought by prohibitionists against a number of legal marijuana businesses that could have, if it had gone the other way, set a dangerous precedent for the industry. We reported on this one a while back, which involves a group of neighbors upset about a nearby legal cannabis business filing a RICO lawsuit, alleging that the smell of the growing cannabis was causing the value of their real estate to drop. Thankfully, U.S. District Court Judge Michael McShane did not agree and ruled that the RICO claims be dismissed, saying that the upset neighbors failed to show that they had actually been harmed economically. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Why was the bird arrested? because he was a robin. Thanks to our sponsor, McCabe Law, LLC, and to all our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. Hope that Robin gets a good bird lawyer. I'm your host, Jay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in, starting your day with Marijuana Today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.